Aria POV. The scent of cedar and mint filled my lungs. It was the scent of my mate, Alpha Bryson Cardenas. The scent that had been my entire world for 4 years. I shifted, the silk sheets cool against my skin. He was still asleep, his powerful chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm beside me. Last night was our anniversary. The first time he'd touched me in months. A fragile, stupid little seed of hope had planted itself in my chest. Maybe this was it. Maybe he was finally coming back to me. My fingers trembled as I reached out, wanting to trace the sharp line of his jaw, wanting to feel the warmth of his skin under my fingertips, a confirmation that last night was real. Before I could touch him, a vibration buzzed on the nightstand. His phone lit up the dim room. A name glowed on the screen. Kelsey Wilcox is Bryson's mistress. My hand froze midair. The air in my lungs turned to ice. Every ounce of warmth from the night before vanished, sucked into a black hole of dread. Bryson was awake instantly. Not slowly, like a normal person, but with the sharp alertness of an alpha. His ice blue eyes, still clouded with sleep, focused on the phone. The moment he read the name, the fog cleared. A softness I hadn't seen in years bloomed in his gaze. He didn't hesitate. He didn't even look at me. He answered the call, swinging his legs over the side of the bed and walking toward the floor-to-ceiling windows, his back to me. A solid wall of muscle and indifference. His voice was a low murmur, intentionally quiet, but in the silence of the room, I heard every gentle word. "Kelsey, don't cry. I'm on my way." I curled into a ball, pulling the duvet up to my chin. The space where he had been lying was already growing cold. Just like my heart, just like my entire life. He ended the call and started dressing with an efficiency that was brutal. No wasted movements. Just a man on a mission that had nothing to do with me. He pulled a fresh shirt from the closet, his movement sharp. He didn't spare me a single glance. My voice was a dry rasp, scratching its way out of my throat. "Bryson, today is our..." "I know," he cut me off. The words were clipped, laced with an annoyance that felt like a physical blow. "Kelsey has an emergency. She's alone, and she's not feeling well." His explanation wasn't an apology. It was a statement of fact. A reminder that another woman's discomfort was more important than our 4-year bond. More important than our anniversary. I watched him button his shirt. The movements were so clean, so precise. It was agonizing to watch. A bitter thought surfaced. In 4 years, I had never once helped him with his tie. He never let me. He walked to my side of the bed, looming over me. His eyes, now fully awake, were chips of ice. "You are my fated mate, Aria. Don't act like a shrew." It wasn't comfort. It was a warning, an alpha's command to his possession. I didn't answer. I just pulled the covers tighter, creating a flimsy shield against him. My silence seemed to satisfy him. He turned and strode out of the room. The click of the bedroom door shutting was deafening. It sealed me in with the lingering scent of him, a ghost of a man who was never really there. I lay on the massive bed, feeling small and insignificant. The whispers from the pack, the pitying looks, the 4 years of cold shoulders and lonely nights, it all came rushing back. I used to believe the fated mate bond was unbreakable, a sacred gift from the moon goddess. Now I knew the truth. It was a cage, and I was the only one trapped inside. Finally, I threw back the covers. My bare feet hit the cold hardwood floor. I walked to the window, my reflection a pale, haunted stranger. Down below, the headlights of Bryson's sports car cut through the pre-dawn gloom. He was speeding away, heading in the direction of Kelsey Wilcox's apartment. My gaze drifted from the disappearing taillights to my own wrist, to the small, pale brown mole that had been there my whole life. I remembered the old pack legends, the forbidden stories whispered by the elders, about the rejection ritual. A crazy, desperate, and utterly final idea bloomed in the barren wasteland of my mind. It was sharp and clear, a single point of light in the darkness. I picked up my own phone. My thumb hovered over the contact list. There was only one name I could even think of calling. Crystal Rollins. My best friend. I didn't press the call button. I just stared at her name, the first real choice I had considered making in 4 years. Aria POV. I sat in the empty room until the sun was a harsh glare through the windows. The tears wouldn't come. It felt like they had all dried up over the last 4 years of waiting for a man who would never be mine. My body was a hollow shell, numb and cold. Then my phone chimed. It wasn't a call. It was a text message from an unknown number. A sick, heavy feeling settled in my stomach as I opened it. I knew, somehow, that this was not a wrong number. A black and white ultrasound picture filled the screen. A tiny, grainy shape, a fetus. Beneath it, a single line of text. Our little miracle. I'll be moving in soon. The phone slipped from my fingers. It landed silently on the thick rug, but the impact inside my chest was like a bomb detonating. A sharp, tearing pain ripped through me. It started in my heart and spread, a web of agony constricting my lungs. I gasped for air, but it felt like breathing in shards of glass. This wasn't just emotional pain. This was real. Bond-strain sickness. The legends were true. When a fated mate endures the ultimate betrayal, the bond itself turns toxic. It attacks the body from the inside out. My vision swam with black spots. I gripped the edge of the bed to keep from collapsing. My wolf, a part of me that had been quiet and subdued for years, whimpered in pain deep inside me. My hands shook as I fumbled for my laptop in the bedside drawer. I needed to see. I needed to confirm the nightmare. I typed in the address for the pack's biggest gossip website. It was a vile place I usually avoided, but today I needed the poison. The headline screamed at me in bold letters, "Alpha and his former flame reunite for a cozy breakfast." The photos were a series of daggers, Bryson and Kelsey, sitting at a small table in a cafe. He was looking at her, his face alight with a tender, protective smile I hadn't seen directed at me since the day we first met. In one photo, his hand rested possessively on her flat stomach. The comments below were a torrent of acid. "Kelsey looks so fragile. I'm glad the Alpha is finally there to protect her. That Omega placeholder has been useless for 4 years. It's about time she was replaced. Look at the way he's touching her stomach. Could there be good news?" The public had already written our story. Kelsey was the damsel in distress, the returning true love. I was the obstacle, the barren, unwanted mate. Each word, each picture, twisted the knife of the bond sickness deeper. The pain in my chest became unbearable. A coppery taste filled my mouth. I coughed, a racking, painful spasm that shook my whole body. I looked down at my palm. A smear of bright, crimson blood stained my pale skin. Panic, cold and sharp, finally pierced through the numbness. This was real that I was literally breaking apart because of him, because of the bond he so carelessly abused. The pack doctors always warned that severe cases could cause permanent damage, could even silence my wolf forever, that IT could kill me. I had to get to the hospital. My fingers automatically went to my phone, my thumb hovering over Bryson's contact. The instinct to call my mate, my Alpha, was deeply ingrained. But he was with her, the woman carrying his child. Would he even care? His voice from this morning echoed in my head. "Don't act like a shrew." I deleted his number. The action was small, but it felt monumental. A severing. Then I dialed the pack hospital's emergency line. The doctor's voice on the other end was grim. He didn't ask questions. He just listened to my choked explanation and gave a single, firm command. "Get to the ER. Now." I hung up, using the wall to pull myself to my feet. Every step was a fresh wave of pain. I pulled on a simple sundress, not bothering with makeup. My face in the mirror was ashen, my eyes hollow. I looked like a ghost. Before leaving the room, I took one last look around. This opulent prison I had called home for 4 years. It was filled with his scent, but not a single drop of his warmth. The last flicker of sentiment died in my eyes, replaced by a cold, desolate emptiness. I grabbed my car keys from the bowl by the door. I didn't look back. I walked to the garage, each step taking me further away from him and closer to whatever came next. Aria POV. My hands were clamped around the steering wheel, my knuckles white. Black spots danced in my vision, and the pain in my chest was a relentless, crushing weight. I couldn't breathe. I wasn't going to make it to the hospital. A primal, desperate fight for survival took over. It wasn't about love anymore. It wasn't about him. It was about living. My trembling finger found his name in my recent calls and pressed it. The phone rang for an eternity. Each ring was a new spike of pain in my chest. Finally, he picked up. The background was filled with the sound of Kelsey's soft, delicate laughter. Aria, what is it now? Bryson's voice was heavy with impatience. I'm busy. I forced the words past the lump in my throat. Bryson, I'm on my way to the hospital. I can't breathe. I coughed up blood. Silence. For one insane second, my heart leaped. Maybe he would hear the truth in my voice. Maybe the mate bond would tell him this wasn't a lie. Then his voice, colder than a winter storm, sliced through the line. Stop it, Aria. Stop with these pathetic games for attention. Is this because I'm with Kelsey? You're disappointing me. I could hear her in the background, her voice a syrupy sweet poison. Bryson, is Miss Farmer upset? Oh, it's all my fault. My body is just so weak. It's not your fault, he soothed her instantly. Then, his voice hardened as he spoke to me. If you're really sick, go see a doctor yourself. Stop calling and bothering me. The line went dead. I stared at the phone in my hand, the dialed tone of flat, monotonous drone. It was the sound of the end. The final, microscopic flicker of hope I didn't even know I was holding on to was extinguished. My vision went completely black for a moment. I slammed on the brakes, the car screeching to a halt on the side of the deserted road. A violent coughing fit seized me. More blood splattered onto the dashboard. I collapsed over the steering wheel, and I laughed. A broken, hysterical sound that turned into a sob. The tears finally came, hot and useless, streaming down my face. For years of being a ghost in his life, and this was the end of it. He wouldn't care if I lived or died. I finally understood. After what felt like an eternity, I sat up. I wiped my face with the back of my hand, my movements mechanical. The tears stopped. There was nothing left to cry for. With the last of my strength, I started the car and drove. I don't know how I made it, but the next thing I knew, I was pulling up to the ER entrance. I practically fell out of the driver's seat. A nurse saw me and shouted for a gurney. The world became a blur of bright lights, urgent voices, and the sterile smell of the hospital. The doctor's face was grim after the examination. Severe bond-strained sickness, he confirmed, his voice low. The betrayal has caused a physical rupture in the bond's connection to your spirit. We need to start energy treatments immediately to stabilize the internal damage. The treatment was agony. I lay alone on a cold, metal table as waves of raw energy were forced into my body, fighting the toxic feedback from the bond. It felt like being torn apart and stitched back together, over and over. But I didn't shed another tear. My mind was eerily calm. Hours later, I was moved to a private room. The doctor warned me that my life was no longer in immediate danger, but the bond itself had a fracture, the crack. Any more emotional trauma could shatter it completely. I stared at the blank white ceiling, and I made the most important decision of my life. I was done, not just with the house, not just with him. I was done with the entire pathetic arrangement. I reached for my phone, my fingers steady now. I opened my email and composed a new message. The recipient was Sharon Price, the head of human resources at Cardenas Industries. The message was short. I, Arya Farmer, hereby resign from my position as executive assistant to the CEO, effective immediately. I had worked for him for 3 years. That IT was his idea, that a way for him to keep an eye on me while also keeping me a secret. No one at the company, except for my one work friend, Scott Hayes, knew I was the Alpha's mate. To avoid unnecessary complications, Bryson had said, this secret, humiliating love, this job that was just another chain, I didn't want it anymore. I hit send. A massive weight lifted from my shoulders. It was the first time I had breathed freely in years. Then I made one more call. The phone was answered on the first ring. Arya, you finally picked up. Did that bastard Alpha do something again? I swear I'm going to rip his throat out. Crystal's fiery voice was a balm to my soul. A weak smile touched my lips. Crystal, I said, my voice hoarse. Can you come pick me up from the hospital? I think I need a place to stay. I had made my choice. I was going to perform the rejection ritual,